All right, I think I am ready. Hello, look, we are doing our live tonight via Facebook and Instagram. It is imperative that I make sure that we are reaching people where they find us, right? So everybody doesn't find us in the same digital outlet. So I think it's important that I do my due diligence to be responsible with all of my platforms. So thank you guys for tuning in on Instagram and on Facebook Live. I would like to know how y'all are doing. So as you're coming in, if you'll give me a heart check, how are we doing? Are we doing okay? Do you guys have what you need? Have you been able to gather the necessary supplies? How are you guys doing? Let me know. I'm concerned. I want to know. And I am going to fade that music out. And I want to jump into tonight's conversation. If you read the caption, it said, hold up, wait a minute. And why that title, Jamila? What's the point? What's the play on words that we're using tonight? And tonight, I want us to just take a minute and stop. Just for a second, I want us to stop and I want us to breathe and I want us to take it all in, because I don't think that many of us have had the opportunity to do that. I think a lot of us have just been going because that's what the situation at hand is requiring of us to do. We've rushed out. We have stocked up on supplies. We are going. And I don't know that many of us have just stopped to take a moment to understand what is transpiring. Have we taken a minute to look at how our lives as a nation has shifted in just a matter of a few weeks? Have we taken inventory of what's really happening around us? And are we internalizing that? And if we are we doing it in a healthy way? And tonight I was really torn about getting online, to be honest, because I don't want to become white noise. I think a lot of people are being inundated with a lot of Facebook lives or Instagram lives, and everybody is trying to get a message out. And in my opinion, some are trying to get a message out for the sake of saying they joined the conversation. And I would like for us to just take a minute and become responsible with our platforms. So no matter who you are, no matter what message you've been given to give, let's make sure that we are being responsible with the information that we are giving out, even if it is being cognizant enough to take a pause before we share a link to make sure it's coming from credible sources. Right now, the world is stricken with anxiety and fear, and everybody is depending on the information that they're receiving, so much so that we're not always making sure that that's accurate information, and we could be putting ourselves under unnecessary stress and strain. And maybe we didn't click on this link tonight to hear that, but that's what's on my heart to share. And I want to jump into the topic. So again, if you are just joining us, do me a favor, please hit that share and that like button. Let's have this conversation. Please share with your comments. I think it's important that we more than ever be more communal in our communication and do our part, right? It's important that we all do our part. So I hadn't really been sleeping much, to be honest, with you guys. I have really been trying to understand like what this burden on my heart was for. I've been really trying to understand like why I'm up at certain times of the night. And the first round of kind of interrupted sleep patterns, if you will, God led me to Revelations. And I was like, okay, why this chapter? Why these references? And because I'm still working through that, I'm going to be responsible with my platform, and I am not going to over communicate what still hasn't been fully communicated to me. But I do think we all should be doing that. I applaud the ministries that are trying to be innovative and conveying the message of Christ. I think it's important that we all make sure that we're doing our part in that. But here's what I want us to take a moment to think about: we the church. And when I say we the church, I am not talking about we the building. I'm talking about we the people, because honestly, that's who the church is. The church is the group or the body, the people, right? And so now we have become the footprint and the hands in the earth that we were called to be, because we have no other choice. And one of my final points, and I'm going to move it to the top because I just feel impressed upon my heart to say it. Now more than ever, the greatest gift that we, the body of believers, can give this world is authenticity. The greatest gift we can give to a hopeless and fear-stricken world right now is authenticity. We have finally reached the point where the gimmicks have to be removed, the staging, the lights, everything that we are using to intensify and sometimes convey our messages. A lot of that's being removed from us now. And the only thing we can give is authenticity. And I, for one, am grateful for it. I was walking through my house the other day and I was like, we finally reached the days of, in the words of Kirk Franklin, get the actors off stage and let church begin. Get the actors off stage and let church begin. I, for one, am happy to be in that space because for once we can no longer be dependent on the gimmicks, the fluff, the smoke, the lights, the ambiance. We can no longer rely on that because we can't go into those buildings. We now have to be able to convey truth without the gimmicks, without the fluff. We now have to be able to convey Christ and all that we are saying and all that we are doing. And I, for one, am happy about it because that is really what this world needs. It doesn't need the gimmicks. It doesn't need the cliches. It doesn't need the 1,000 touch your neighbors. It doesn't need the riffs and the organs, all of that. What the world needs right now is authenticity. It needs the truth of what the gospel reads. It needs the hope that the gospel conveys. And now more than ever, we have an opportunity to let God be the focus. We have the opportunity to make him the object of our affection. We now have the opportunity to make sure when they see us, they see and they hear Christ. Christ alone. I'm excited about it. And here's why. I went and I looked up some stats because I think it helps us put things into perspective. So in the United States, I'm using the United States because that's where I reside. I know that I'll have a global reach because that's what God promised me. But for tonight, we are talking about the United States of America. Okay. So in the United States, the average hours worked based on certain age groups is this: 16 to 19-year-olds on average are working 24.1 hours per week. Ages 20 to 24, they are working 34.8 hours a week. 25 to 54, they are working 40.5 hours a week. And 55 and older, they are typically working 38 hours per week. That's just by age. If we look at it by gender, males work on average 41 hours per week. Women on average work 36.4. When we look at it from a marital status point, men work 4.5 hours more per week. Married men, work 4.5 more hours per week than a man who has never been married. And married women work 1.7 more hours per week than a woman who has never been married. What's the point, Jamila? What are you trying to help us convey? I want you to start listening to the stats and think about how we have been programmed to utilize our time. Why does that matter? It will make sense in just a minute. So if we look at it, on average from ages 16 to 55, we are spending on average 38.9 hours working. We have programmed 16-year-olds to balance working 24 hours a week on top of school, on top of sports, whatever else their obligations are. We are training our children to be people who are always on the go, always in demand, always stretched thin. We're teaching them to function at high levels of stress and normalizing it starting at age 16. Think about that for a minute. How many of us have 16-year-olds who have full-time jobs and are going to school full-time and maybe trying to manage a social life and managing social activities, whatever those are? They're learning that from ages 16 upward. We're not seeing a decline in the hours people are working until they get to 55. Okay. Why does it matter? Because when you talk about how much time we will willingly invest in a work week, 1 in 3 Americans attend church on a regular basis. 1 in 3. But from 16, we are trained and conditioned and are normalizing committing 24 at minimum hours per week to a job. But we've only got 1 in 3 Americans coming to church on a regular basis. Do I blame them when I look at the reasons why? No. So why do we only have 1 in 3 Americans attending churches on a regular basis? 23% of the population say they can't seem to find the right church. 1 in 3 Americans attend church on a regular basis. 23% of the population believe they can't find a proper church. 9% cannot attend regularly because they're in poor health. 18% of the people say they can't find a sermon that's engaging. They don't find the subject matters being preached across the pulpit engaging enough to commit to routinely attending our churches. Nearly 40% of Americans between 18 and 29 say they have no particular religious affiliations. And it's not to say that they don't believe in God. They're saying, I will not subscribe to your denomination. They're not saying, I won't subscribe to God. They're saying, I won't subscribe to your denomination. What is that saying about the church? Are we making the denomination and the religiosity and the religious practice and the tradition the focus, so much so that God's got lost in translation? So they'll say, I'll believe in a God, but I won't subscribe to your very structured and rigid and narrow perspective of what church should be. It's going to be a heart chat tonight. So if you're coming in after the start of it, please watch it from the replay. As you're coming in, please do me a great favor and share this post. I want to have this conversation because I believe it's imperative that we begin to start talking about the truth. People are no longer going to subscribe to what does not make sense, what is not applicable, what is a distraction from the reason why they came, because ultimately they are coming because they want to see God. They want to experience what the world has failed at giving them. And because we have made what we want so much of the focus, we are losing them by numbers that are astronomical. They are walking away from not God, but from the traditions of man. They are walking away from norms that we refuse to expand because it's going to cause us to become more knowledgeable of the gospel that we preach. It's going to require us to become students again because it's going to require us to decide that this way, yes, it got us over, but we're trying to get over the next hurdle. So that means we've got to become innovative because we want to stay in what's comfortable and familiar to us. We are losing them. So, am I really caught off guard at the state of the country right now? I am not, because at this point in time, everything that was used as a distraction, everything that was used as a ploy and a pawn is being shut down, and you are going to be able to have to authentically present God or don't present him at all. He will not change who he is. He will change the avenue through which he is presented. And can you be that avenue? Can you be the vessel that will give people what they need without a personal agenda attached to it? Will they do it? Somebody posted on Facebook. They said they can't get into the church because they push you away if you don't fit into their traditions and their personality. Where people, thank you for being engaging. People are bringing up key points here where they can't be accepted because maybe I go against the grain of what you call normal. Now there's no place for me. Is that truly what the church was created for? Was it? No. So think about it. There is a piece of this statistical study that I found to be incredibly interesting, and it said that 58% of Americans wish that they could study more, meaning the Bible. They want to be able to study more of the Bible, and that 58% includes 22% of skeptics. 58% of the American population desires to be able to study more of the gospel, and included in that 58% are 22% that are classified as skeptics. What does that say about the current condition of our country now? You have 58% of Americans who wanted more time to study, who wanted more time to gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Do they have it now? With the way this world has transitioned so swiftly, it's not as if we didn't get the warning signs. The coronavirus has been in conversation since 2019. But we were slowful in our response to the point of not responding until it was absolutely necessary. And now that we're in the place where we have to respond, we're shutting down stores. We're shutting down the things that serve as your distractions. You can't eat in the restaurant. You can't go to the bars. You can't gather in groups larger than 10. Interesting. Because really the effectiveness of the gospel often happens in the small group. It happens in the intimacy. It happens when I can give you something and we can talk through it and not just talk high level, but we have an opportunity to get down in the weeds of a thing. Interesting. The American population actually just got what it didn't know it needed, because this is what you asked for. You said you wanted more time to study. That's in the statistics, not according to the Gospel of Jamila. We wanted more time. Now we have the time. What will we do with the time that we have now? What can we do? You guys know I don't tarry before you long. So I want to talk about this. And I said it a little earlier, and I want to come back to it. The greatest gift that the church can give the world at large right now is authenticity. No more productions. No more making everything so perfect in presentation that we forget to leave room for the presence. No more will we make sure that we stick to all these regimented time capsules that we forget that sometimes it takes a little bit more time to lay on a point. Now we have time to lay into the meat of a message. Now, teachers, let's exegete the text properly. Now, preachers, those who have been given authority to convey the word, let's go through it and really tell the truth behind the context, the setting of the text, why it was written, to whom it was written, what is the time. All of that matters. Why? Because it gives context. So now people can understand how to apply what they are teaching or what they're being taught, because we have gotten so far away from it because we're trying to make sure that we get to this many services per day. We're trying to make sure that we reach this many people per day. We've gotten so caught up in the number of a thing that we've forgotten that God is to be the focus. We've gotten so wrapped up in how we want the world to see our church, whether it be the greatest in this area or that area. It's all about us that we forgot to make it about God. We forgot to make it about God. We forgot. Teachers, preachers alike, gain in-depth knowledge on what you are presenting. It's time to be responsible with our platform. Gain in-depth knowledge on what you are preaching and presenting to people in this hour. Be sensitive about what you say in this hour, because people are clinging to our words for dear life. And I don't want anybody to go through a spiritual suicide because we so badly want to say something that we will say anything. Be careful about the message that you convey in this hour. If he only gave you one bullet point to teach on that bullet point and close the book, because maybe he's only entrusting you with 15 minutes. Maybe he's not asking you to get on your social media platform and give an hour-long dissertation. Maybe he just wanted you to speak to your audience for 15 minutes. Be careful and be knowledgeable and be intentional. There's so much meat on the bone oftentimes, and we don't get to it because we're so busy trying to get to the next thing. Lay into whatever the message is that you have been convicted to convey, and dig deeper. Dig deeper. Do not rattle off everything that you say with all of the scriptures that people possibly can know or will say along with you. Let's go deeper. The deep calls out to deep in this hour. There is a yearning for more. There is a yearning for an answer, and the answer could quite possibly be in your mouths, and it doesn't take all day to get there sometimes, right? Present information with integrity. If you are going to speak on something, integrity means that it is laced with the truth, not personal opinions or preference, but with the truth. So let's be sure in this hour that we are presenting our information with integrity. Whoever your audience is, whoever your tribe is, whomever your voice has been assigned to, present information with integrity. Dear teachers and preachers, motivational speakers, life coaches, friends of friends, family members, whatever your title, please be prepared to answer why questions. When I think about why my generation is so prone to just say, you know what, forget it, I'll figure it out on my own, is because when we press upon you to answer the why, we don't get an answer. We talk around the subject, but we can never address the subject in depth. So if you're going to present any bit of information in this hour, dig deep enough to be able to answer the why behind what you are communicating. Why am I saying that? Because I am one who will ruffle feathers without apology, because I think it is imperative that we become more responsible with our platforms. So I, fully Christian, went and I looked up an article intentionally written by a Christian who turned atheist. Controversial? No. Sometimes you need to understand why people walk away from a thing. Just like in HR, we want to do an exit interview to understand why somebody is leaving an organization, to maybe hopefully be able to mitigate the likelihood of that happening again. We as Christians need to know why people walk away from our faith. We do. If we want to be able to close the gap, we've got to be able to understand why they're leaving. So let me read this to you. It says, above all, therapy has helped me to become comfortable with life's gray areas. My church was all about seeing life in black and white, sinners and saved, heaven or hell, success or failure. Thankfully, therapy doesn't work on those terms. There is room to explore. There's room to ask difficult questions. Deal with internal inconsistencies. There is room for pushback against your own personal beliefs and the belief of the therapist. There's not only room for it, but it's strongly encouraged. And the freedom to think critically and honest about major doubts has been the most transformative thing for me. This is somebody who was Christian, now pronounced as atheist, and they said, my therapist has become my preacher. That was the title of the article. Why? Because I was able to have somebody navigate life with me through the gray areas. They did not present life to me as black and white. They were able to help me navigate through my internal inconsistencies. They welcomed me challenging their perspective, and then we worked through it so that we could draw a conclusion. This is why it is imperative that we, the church, become more knowledgeable and dig some roots and be prepared to answer the questions, because everything isn't black and white. And thank God for grace, because I needed help navigating through life's gray areas. And had it not been for grace, I would have been left to try to figure it out alone and been condemned because I didn't get it right. People are walking away from what doesn't allow them the freedom to ask the hard questions without being ostracized and put out and condemned. Do we not say that sin is sin? Absolutely. But if God were to mark iniquity, who could stand? Not a single one of us, from the top dog on down. So when we are talking about it, we have to understand that people are in need of somebody to get in the trenches with them and help them navigate through it. This world is looking to the church and how the church is going to respond and help them navigate through one of the most uncertain times that this world has seen in I don't know how long. How are we going to help them navigate? How are we going to help them address the gray? Are we prepared to do so? If not, please do the world a favor and don't hit that go live button. Don't write that post, because if they come back and they need clarity, and they come back and they need your help and you're not in a position to do so, we've done them yet another disservice. So what are our next steps? Be responsible with your platform, whatever it is. And I'm not necessarily limiting that to our platforms on social media. I'm talking about even the text messages that we send out, the emails that we send out, any means of communication that you are utilizing during this time. Be responsible. Next, speak to what you know and understand. We cannot gloss over subject matters anymore. We cannot merely decide we're going to speak at such a high level that we don't even know what we're talking about. Let's be honest. It's how we speak at it at this level, because to go any deeper is going to require another level of commitment to us. And we don't actually want to do that. And this is what we've heard, and this is what we know. So we're just going to say that because it sounds good. It fits right here. So let's just chime that in. Not in this hour. Not in this hour. My husband told me this a long time ago, and somebody gave him this, and it said, it is better to be silent than to be ignorant. It is better to be quiet than to speak in ignorance in this hour. Collaboration. This is the time for collaboration. If someone you know is more knowledgeable in a subject matter than you are, why not collaborate? There's so many ways for us to connect through social media portals. We can chime people in. We can host Zoom room meetings. There are ways for us to collaborate. Some of my dear friends that are on what is this called? Instagram. I know that they are way more tech savvy than me. So if there's a subject matter that is being pressed upon me to share, but maybe I'm not the person to share it, maybe I need to host a platform for somebody else to share it. Do you think I'm not going to reach out to people that I know who can help me do that? Why not? It's because who are we making the focal point? Who are we getting back to? We're making Christ the center. So it's not about my personal platform or my personal agenda. It's about making sure that what needs to be communicated is communicated in its most integral form. Be honest. Honesty is what is going to get people in the door and keep them in the door. People are more likely to respect a person who says, I don't know, than they are somebody who has to come back and apologize for them knowingly speaking in ignorance. You knew you didn't know the answer to this, but because I wanted to have something to say, I'm going to rattle off something anyway. Now I have to come back, and hopefully I haven't caused too much damage, but now I've got to do damage control because you probably took what I said at face value because you trusted me enough to give you information. And now I have mishandled your trust by giving you something that wasn't even applicable, that wasn't proven, that had no integral value. So honesty. Listen, I want us to do this for me. Stay well. Stay well. And I'm not just talking about taking your vitamins and all of that. Stay well. Don't overdo it. Take in the information that you need to make sound decisions in this time. And then at some point, turn the news off, shut the social media platform down, because you're going to become overly inundated with so much information that now what was true, you're probably going to start to question because you've got so much information. You're in information overload. Stay well, get informed, shut it down. At some point, move while we have the freedom to still walk outside. Go for a walk. Let the fresh air hit your face. For those of you who are teleworking, go outside on your lunch break. Maybe spend 20 minutes in the sun. Just allow yourself to take in the nature. Shut it down for a minute. Let your brain take a break from everything that it's being inundated with. Don't answer phone calls during that time. Listen to your favorite album, decompress for just a minute, because you have to take care of you as well. Keep your mind active. Read a book. You got time. Read a book. So many platforms now are giving out free opportunities for us to get ebooks. I love a paper book and I've got plenty to choose from. So do keep your mind active. Do some crossword puzzles. Don't become programmed and conditioned by the swipe. Let's not have swipeitis. Like we're just going to spend all day swiping. No, let's keep our brains active. Let's keep our minds engaged. And finally, I want us to mind our thoughts. Mind your thoughts. That which you give room to will be what controls you in this hour. So whatever it is that you're pondering on, whatever you are thinking of, your mind is taking that information, is trying to decipher from truth and a lie. And the more you ruminate on the thing, the more that your mind is going to start accepting that as truth. So in this hour, I am praying that the truth would be supreme, that truth would truly be the governor of our thoughts in this hour. I think it's imperative that those who have been given an assignment to speak the truth rise up and do so without fear. If God has put something on your heart and your mind to share, do not become fretful. I am telling you that this is not the hour for you to shy away from what you know God has told you to say because you feel like the market is overly saturated, or you feel like they're not going to listen to you, or you feel like you're going to become white noise. If it is on your heart to share, it is on your heart to share for a reason. So people are craving the truth. People need the truth. Intercessors, it is the hour that you arise. The voice of the prophet needs to arise. The teacher, please teach. Please teach. Do not stray away from what you know you have been called to do in this hour. To my minstrels, arise. To the psalmist, arise. It is the hour for truth to drown out the voice of every lie. But if you will not speak, they will not hear. The hour has fully come for truth to take center stage. Truth to take center stage. There is going to be a download of innovation like we have never seen in this hour. And it is coming to those with the right posture, those who truly want to see God be God in this hour. They are going to arise, and the sound that is released will heal this land. I beg of thee, do not shy away from your assignment in this hour. God has need of us. He needs us. If you know you've been called to pray, pray. If you know you have been called to intercede. If the name of somebody comes on your heart out of nowhere, do not drop that off as coincidence. Reach out to them immediately. There is something attached to what you have to say to them that is life for them. Rise up and take your place. There is a sound. There is a sound, and this sound will cause the kingdom of God to be put back where it is to be, which is at the center and the core of all things. God will get the glory even in this. And if men won't do it, the rocks will cry out. The rocks will cry out. God will get the attention of his people through unconventional means if we don't do what we have been called to do. Dear church, do not feel like you have lost your effect because you cannot go into your buildings. God has given us creativity. He has given us the power and the wisdom to convey his message in a way that is integral, in a way that is applicable, in a way that will change and eradicate lives. The world is looking to the church. What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? What were some of the statistics? Statistics that I just gave you. 1 in 3 people go to church on a regular basis, meaning they go to the building. The stats say that people are about to and have been looking for avenues to see God through unconventional means. The time has finally presented itself. Arise and take your rightful place. The time has come. The time's come. Don't let them see you. Make sure that God is the center of everything that you do and everything that you say. And if you have nothing to say, say nothing at all. Our words are laced with the power of life and death. And what we speak in this hour will either give life or it will further damage the integrity of the gospel. Speak truth and truth alone. Be responsible with your platforms. Extend your hand in this hour. There's somebody who doesn't understand this thing called faith. There's somebody who doesn't understand our definition of hope. There's somebody who's looking to us to say, will the church finally be what I need the church to be? Or will the church continue to be boxed in to their traditional norms with the inability to reach me where I am? Is the church going to answer the why behind why I am where I am? Is anybody going to love me enough to put me at the top of their mind or their prayer list? Is anybody going to be willing enough to maybe just sing the song that I needed to hear? Is somebody hearing from heaven enough to know that I need God like I never needed him before, but I don't know who this Jesus is that y'all profess? Can somebody reach even me? Our time has come. Church, I'm begging of you, please be responsible with your platforms. Please don't be so heavenly minded that you are no earthly good. Let's be cautious. Let's be intentional. Let's honor the law of the land. If it said don't congregate in more than groups of 10, let's do our part. I've got people that work in the healthcare industries. Their lives are on the line. I've got people that work in law enforcement. Their lives are on the line. I've got people who can't take days off. So if they can't take days off, please, let's take days in for their sake. I don't want my mother on the road. She don't have no choice. My cousin works in residential nursing facilities. She's watching her nursing care facility residents go through what they've never seen before. For the sake of the people, do your part. Please do your part. I'm begging of you, do your part and continue to do your part. And when this passes, because this too shall pass, don't go back to what you just got delivered from. Traditions of man. Don't go back to the old way just because that's what I was more comfortable with and I was just doing this for the time being. No, because if we're reaching more people, because we have been called to go into the world and compel men. You want to know something? The church finally can't save itself. We finally can't preach to each other. We finally can't try to finish each other's scriptures. We are finally forced to go out and save the lost. We have a mandate. Let's fulfill it beyond the extension of the pandemic, beyond the extension of the quarantines, beyond it all. Let's use this time to see what God is doing because he's doing a new thing. He's doing a new thing and we have the privilege of being a part of it. So let's be a part of it. Let's stay prayerful. Let's stay safe. Do your part. I love you guys. I appreciate you so much for tuning in tonight. If this was helpful to you, please share with somebody else. Please continue the conversation because the days we don't even know what tomorrow holds. I work in HR and the conversation is changing in a matter of hours at times. We don't know what tomorrow holds, but you want to know what I know? I know who holds tomorrow. I know who holds tomorrow. I may not know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. And he's already in tomorrow. And because he's already in tomorrow, my hope and my trust is built on nothing less than my true and living God. And he will take care of his people. He will preserve his people. He will not leave us and he will not put his people to shame. So, dear people, let's not put him to shame. Let's make sure we put God back at the center. The time is now. I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I pray that I said something that was applicable, that was meaningful. Tonight, before I go off, I want you to pull out your journals. I want us to write a journal entry. What is the thing that I've been asking God for more time to do? What are those things? What is it that I've been asking God to free me up to do? And now that he's done it, will you be responsible with the time that he's giving you to do what you've been asking him for more time to do? Do your part. I love you guys so very much. Mwah. Have a good night.